All right, 2 minutes late, not too bad. Had to finish up the last touches here on this Cincinnati Reds top prospect update. I went 15 deep this time. We also did some honorable mentions at the end. I'm sure I missed some honorable mentions, to be honest, because the top end, the top 20 guys in this, top 15 guys in this Red system are just so good that that's really where I put most of my focus, Clay. But I'm really excited to get all the questions in here from what is a large amount of Reds fans that really care about the farm system, which has been super cool to see. And I've really enjoyed seeing Reds fans kind of embrace the farm system development.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, we did this about 2 months ago, maybe. You and I jumped on here and talked about the Reds, and it went really well. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me asking if we could do it again, especially after the deadline when the Reds brought back so many top prospects and some really interesting young prospects as well. And there's just a buzz around the fan base. You see it all over Twitter. I've never been able to log onto Twitter and seen Spencer Steer's name every single day. Like that's just not something that happened in the past with, a guy of that caliber. He's a really good prospect, but he's not, Elly De La Cruz. So it's cool to see how the fans are just really into the prospects right now, and we're excited to hear your update as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, even guys that like don't make the list, that like Joe Boyle, for example. I mean, seeing people talk about Joe Boyle is funny to me, because Joe Boyle was a guy that, when he was drafted, it was like a little throw-in name I'd mentioned to some Reds fans here and there, like, oh, watch out for this guy. He throws 100, could be a cool closer. But now we're having people really watch, Joe Boyle starts. I'm going to talk about why he missed. And we can maybe talk about like some of the just misses as we wait for people to kind of trickle in. I see Nick Kirby is in here from Late Night Reds Talk. Nick Kirby's the man. By the way, Nick, I had someone come up to me at the National Card Show, and they were saying, hey, I just saw you on Nick Kirby's Late Night Reds show the other day, or last night. I guess it was the next morning. You got some people at the National that are big fans of what you guys are doing over there, but love how much you guys are covering the prospect side of things. Happy to have you guys aboard and answer any questions. And I really have enjoyed diving into the Reds farm system over the last several months, honestly. But as they continue to add guys, like the last week or so, as I'm updating the top 100 list, obviously a lot of those guys are Reds. So I figured it was a perfect time to update the Reds top prospect list, which, by the way, is on justbaseball.com right now. We're going to follow along together. We're going to share the screen, and I'm going to have the prospect list and the prospect grades on the screen. But if you want to have it up on your personal device, it is already live on justbaseball.com. You can see Elly De La Cruz's beautiful face front and center.
And I have not seen the list yet, so I'll be going off live reaction. A little thing about Nick. Nick and I just did a episode on his account on Sunday. It released, and it was like 2 weeks we've been working on this 2024 Reds team. So we got into a lot of prospects there. So it's a good primer for tonight's discussion. But Arm, do you want to jump into a couple of the just missed guys?
Yeah. Well, and why don't I just share my screen now? We'll scroll down, and honestly, I want you to fill in for me here, because there's only so much I can know when it comes to like the deep dive guys of every system. I try to know everybody there is to know in every single farm system, but I'm almost surely going to miss here and there one of those deeper dive prospects that, maybe certain fan bases are attached to in the Dominican Summer League that I'm not aware of. That's always going to happen. So feel free to enlighten me in any way on those guys. And I'm happy to talk about it, but I'm going to share my screen right now.
And while Arm's doing that, you all join in the discussion as well. Feel free to comment any players that you want to talk about, any players who you think might need to be mentioned, or put somebody on our radar, Also, the easiest way to support this is just by clicking the like button on this live stream. That does tons for us in terms of just getting views. There's, of course, the super chat option where you can support as well. And any super chats that are posted, we will read that question automatically. But feel free to drop questions in the comments, names, your own thoughts on any of these prospects. I'll be monitoring them and I guess presenting some questions to Arm throughout, if you all just drop them in the comments.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And yeah, subscribe to our YouTube. We're doing A lot of prospect stuff there. We're going to have an episode of the call up as well, which will be a lot of the same of this, but breaking down the top 15 prospects and kind of getting into everything. But I wanted to talk about the just missed guys. And, someone like Victor Acosta, where, maybe going into this year is a guy that maybe could have snuck into the back end because of the upside. But when I look at this farm system, Victor Acosta acquired for Brendan Drury, really interesting prospect, $1.8 million international free agent, 5-tool potential. But you just can't. Proximity matters, right? Like that's something that I'm very much going to weigh. If it was all upside, maybe he'd be in the top 10. Proximity matters. All the guys in the top 10 are already kind of playing a little bit more consistently and have showed some things either at the lower levels or at the upper levels. But this is a perfect guy to get when you're not going to get a huge return. I thought they did well to get Victor Acosta for Brendan Drury, but the looks have just been so limited. I can't really put him in the top 15.
Yeah, and I agree. And when I was talking to fans about kind of pre-deadline, and I know that you typically agree with this approach as well, it's you kind of have to be varied. You have to get your 23-year-old, 24-year-old prospects that you like, but it's also smart with sometimes to take the 18-year-old lottery ticket, but mix and match, get a little bit of everything involved. You don't necessarily want to go after all of the 25-year-old guys who just haven't had a shot yet, because there's a reason why teams are willing to give up that much control a lot of times for a player that age. But so yeah, I liked that player that they brought back, Victor Acosta, and it's another shortstop, right? It's another player that has the athletic trait that Nick Kroll said in an interview recently with Jim Day, that they are acquiring athletes. And where they play, it will all figure itself out, which is, kind of a refreshing thing to hear a GM kind of go out and say, like, we're thinking outside the box. We're just going to acquire talented players. And if you can play shortstop, you can likely learn a different position.
Exactly. And I think we'll get to some of those other guys that kind of fit that mold. And before we kind of jump into 15 and onward, I wanted to talk about Joe Boyle. I mean, look, if this guy can even find anything close to reasonable command, you have a lot to dream on here. But he quite literally is a 20 grade command guy, which I don't know if I can remember the last time I've slapped a 20 grade on somebody's command. That being said, the fact that he is still able to get outs is just a testament to how good the stuff is. Boyle was pretty much drafted with the intention of being a reliever, and he's been pretty adamant on sticking as a starter, and I appreciate that and respect that. I think he should give it a go through the rest of this year, but I do think the Reds may have to give it a look at the end of this year and say, okay, maybe we move him to the bullpen. It's not the end of the world, because I think this is going to be an impact big leaguer as a reliever, but you can't walk 20% of batters. Barely 50% of the pitches that he's throwing are strikes. It's just not going to play. But the fastball, I've seen it touch 103 in person, pretty electric. 2 breaking balls that are devastating. Again, he could be a closer, and I think that's what makes the most sense long term. But they're going to try a little bit longer, I'd assume, as a starter. But it's at the point now where he just needs to throw more strikes.
And he's one of those players that you love and hate to watch, because when you're watching him, it's electric, like you said. But then he'll walk 3 in a row, and you're just sitting there pulling your hair out. Like, it's just a difficult player to watch. A lot of talent. Maybe move into the bullpen. Do you think he'll just be able to focus on maybe even just 2 pitches?
Yeah, fastball
if he needs to. Yeah,
fastball, and then honestly, like, he can keep the 2 breaking balls, but as a starter, you can feel better. Or as a reliever, you can feel better about just whatever breaking ball is on that day. Just stick with that one. Whereas as a starter, you got to mix it up. You got to throw all 3, and that's going to be pretty tough to do. And it's obviously been tough for him. Bryce Hubbard is one of the underrated gets. I do like that pick a lot. Obviously, we haven't really seen him pitch much professionally yet, but good data on the fastball. I think there's some projection there. Lefty, who has shown really good flashes, whether it was on the Cape or FSU, could be, I don't know about an Andrew Abbott level steal, but could be kind of in that same ballpark of a college arm lefty that has some good stuff, some good polish, and could end up being a little bit of a steal there. Bryce Bonnin. Do you know anything about why Bryce Bonnin has not thrown since June? What's the word on that?
I'm not sure what the injury is or anything. If I remember right, he was brought back in a trade with the Dodgers. Is that where he originally came from? I can't remember off the top. I get him and Joe Boyle's like career arch confused often for some reason, but I think Bryce Bonnin was brought back from the
I know
Dodgers.
Bonnin's a homegrown guy.
Okay,
So
maybe it
Bonnin,
was.
third round pick, like the definition of a data darling. I think that was a Kyle Bodie pick.
Yeah,
Like legitimately data darling pitcher. We didn't really get, at least as far as I know, any specifics on what the injury is, but he was looking pretty good out of the gate. And even his last outing looks really, really strong. But this is kind of one of those, throw it hard and kind of see where it goes kind of guy. And it might impact his health, but slider is potentially a plus pitch. Fastball is lively. I really think this guy could be a really good reliever, and he was showing flashes as a good starter. Got to mention Austin Hendrick as a guy. I know he's shown some flashes. He's 21 years old, so I'm not going to write him off. He's obviously very much in the back end of this top 30 at this point, but he's 21 years old. He hits the ball hard. He has good bat speed. But I mean, man, he's got to really figure something out, and something's got to click for him at some point because there's just way too much whiff and zone whiff at this point for Austin Hendrick.
yeah, and Carrick Melvin, who actually runs the Reds minor league Facebook page and is a huge resource for us, chimed in saying it was a shoulder for Bonnin, he believes. So,
okay.
Who knows the degree of that injury? Yeah. So, but with Austin Hendrick, and I know that you and I have talked about this a lot. So, he came from Pennsylvania, where the high school competition is just not up to par with a lot of what he's seen. And that was that COVID draft. And there's just a lot working against him right now.
Yeah.
So maybe he will just take a little bit longer, which is fine.
Yeah.
I have been surprised that he wasn't a little bit better. And he hasn't been like completely like, oh my gosh, this guy's never gonna have a chance to make it. Like he's shown flashes at times and shown that talent, but he has a long way to go.
Yeah. But at least there are some flashes. He hasn't fully been lost. And again, just 21 years old. Should we answer questions first or kind of get into the top 15? What do you think?
So our buddy Jace asked a question, and this is a question about a player who could potentially will show up on our list. So why don't we hold this question? If you ask a question that does not have to do with the players who are coming up on the list, we'll hold. Or in this case, asking a player that will come up, probably, we're going to start at the back and work our way towards the front. So we will answer that question once we get to it, Jace.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of do it where like any specific questions on the guy that we're talking about, let him go. And then at the end, if there's any questions that people want to ask as a whole, we can definitely circle back to them. So Jay Allen was a tough guy for me to peg. And I know you and I talked about him a little bit, where gets the promotion to high A, which was a little bit surprising because also Nick Kirby said shoulder impingement. I had that before my labrum fully went, but like impingement, if you catch it early, PT, take care of it, you're back in a couple months. But back to Jay Allen. This guy's really projectable, man. I mean, 6'3", 190. He's an above average runner. I really think the bat is more advanced than it should be. Remember, this was a 3-sport athlete who hardly focused on really just playing baseball that much. He's a basketball, football player. He's at the Elite 11 as a quarterback, which is a big deal. Like football was a big part of what he was doing. I'm pretty impressed with what he's done contact-wise, with how he's been able to stay afloat in low A. I thought the high A promotion was a bit much. I'm very surprised by it, and he has struggled in the early going. I think they were looking too much at just, the bat to ball is working. He looks good. Like, let's send him up. He's a good athlete. But I think he needs to really figure out how to lift more, how to tap into more power, and that comes when you gain confidence with just overall hitting. So I was surprised to see the bump up, but I think his upside is what really gets him at 15 here. I think there's above average power plus raw power potential. The field to hit is impressive. He's an above average runner who gets to his top speed very quickly. I think he can stick in center. There's a lot to like here from Jay Allen, and I think there's too much to like and already some good things we've seen to not have him at number 15.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I haven't really seen too much of him this year because I think there's only been like, 5 low A games that have been on MILB.com, and I watched those, and I know that there's going to be another player on this list that that I really had an eye on. But everything I've heard about Jay Allen's been positive. That high A, and I know that you and I talked about this offline. Maybe just give him a month there and then keep him there all year next year, kind of like no matter what, and just let him get his feet wet. Is that maybe the case with the call up? Because it didn't really seem like he had, was just knocking down the door to high A.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised. I think it was more of just the way he was, comfortable at the plate overall, but he wasn't punishing baseballs. He was more of just putting the ball in play and relying on the speed. And I would have liked to have seen him be a little bit more comfortable and polished as a hitter before they do that. And before we get to 14, actually, this is a guy that definitely should have been in the just missed section. I'll probably add him after this. Ivan Johnson's really interesting. Every time I think he's starting to slow down and maybe like gets eaten up by the upper levels, he seems to just settle back in and just survive. He hits the ball hard. He's a switch hitter. Exit velos are above average. He's an interesting bat that I think can be a big league option with some versatility, but he chases a lot. There's some whiff there for sure. So like he's always going to be a guy that has a lot of swing and miss in his game. So I don't know about how much you can rely on him to be a regular, but there's definitely a big league piece there potentially. He could be a really good utility bench piece as well.
He feels like he gets overlooked and just, he's just been passed on the depth chart by other prospects who are, really legitimate prospects. Not that he isn't. He feels like the type of player that you could move for a nice bullpen piece if you're in that position at the deadline. Like he seems like the type of prospect who other teams do want and could be traded for and get a legitimate piece back. He's definitely a guy to keep an eye on for the Reds, but just with the way the depth chart's looking, could be an intriguing trade piece going forward.
Yeah, and again, like he's probably not staying at shortstop. He's already kind of made a lot of starts away from there. But the fact that he's capable there is a testament to how he can play all over. And I do see kind of a utility aspect to what he brings to the table there with some impact and some thump as well. One more question on a guy that didn't really make the cut that I want to talk about before we get to the next topic or the next player is Javier Rivera. And is that a name that's been kind of coming up more in your circles?
Man, the thing about Reds Twitter, you'll get a hot name every once in a while, and it'll last a week, and everyone's burning it up. And that is the name this week. I believe he was like a 20th round pick or something crazy a few years ago, some super late round. He's just a guy that has pitched really well. In low A, just got called up to high A. I believe made one start there.
Yeah.
And flashed a little bit. So now he's on everyone's radars. And I honestly don't know a ton about him. I've not watched him yet, but I've looked up his stats and he looks like, he's doing pretty well.
No, there's something here. I'll say that's another guy I'm going to add to the honorable mentions. I didn't get to really flesh out the honorable mentions as much because we wanted to get the article up for you guys to follow along with during the stream. But Rivera, there's something there because the fastball has a ton of life, a ton of zone swing and miss, even in the 92 to 94 range. And then his number one pitch off of that is a changeup. So anytime I see a riding fastball with a good changeup as your go-to secondary pitch, I'm intrigued. And he has a good feel for the changeup. So I think that's why he's been able to carve up more inexperienced hitters when you have that fastball changeup combination. But he's already showing a slider as well. This is a guy to watch. I think that Reds fans have every right to be interested in what Javier Rivera is doing right now. Let's go to 14, which is Levi Stoudt. This was probably one of the tougher guys for me to peg, Clay.
Yeah.
Because proximity, again, matters, right? I'm going to emphasize that. Proximity matters. Levi Stoudt put up a surface level, not the best numbers in AA, but a lot of really good indications from what he did in AA. Gets the promotion to triple. It's been rough so far. But Stoudt is going to be a big leaguer in some capacity, and I think that matters. And what's interesting is you'd think that the fastball is 90 to 92. With the way his strikeout numbers look and also just the lack of swing and miss on that pitch, but it's really 94 to 96. It's just flat. It's kind of a dead zone fastball, and that's been the problem. But his slider is a big league pitch, and it's a big league above average pitch, and he's throwing it 45% of the time right now. What's crazy is it's still a good offering. So when I look at Levi Stoudt, I say, okay, he can ride that slider to a bullpen roll, but the fastball is mid-90s, like I said, and he has 2 other pitches. They're not great, but he can mix them in. If that changeup can develop to average, he has good command. Could be a number 5 swingman type. Again, the proximity matters. There's definitely other guys I'm way more excited about. I'm probably more excited about Javier Rivera already, but Stoudt has already shown that he could probably pitch in the upper levels with success, and I think is very likely going to be a swingman in some capacity at the big league level. And again, that does matter.
Yeah, and I immediately saw this as this is somebody who could probably slide into the bullpen sooner than later. And with as many starting pitchers as they have, if he turns into your kind of like a Jeff Hoffman type of replacement, the guy who can go two or 3 innings if you have to do that, um, under a controllable contract for years.
Yeah,
and there's still more than that potentially.
exactly. There's still a little to dream on.
Yeah, I like that move when they brought him in. Now, of course, this speaks volumes to the whole don't just go off of teams' prospect rankings. Stoudt was number 5 or 6 in the Mariners organization. Immediately was out of the top 10 in the Reds. Those are always kind of deceiving. Just keep that in mind. I do think that Stoudt will have a role on this team going forward. I just see it as more of a bullpen, which is fine. They still have other options that have more upside and a little bit higher ceiling, but sometimes you just need these type of guys who maybe even as soon as next year can eat some innings and get some experience under their belt and just provide organizational depth.
Yeah. And again, you need those guys, and you can stretch him out. His command is good. He can make spot starts when you need it. So Mr. Juan, you should have a good reliever here. And Levi Stoudt in short spurts, that slider will probably play up a little bit. He has a ridiculous feel for the slider. I mean, he throws it for a strike more than 2/3 of the time. I mean, that's really unheard of for a breaking ball. And I think that's a testament to how comfortable Stoudt is with the pitch. Just he needs to get one of the other offerings, even just above average or average. And I think he'll be in good shape because the fastball really does get hit hard and really just is not a great pitch. We'll go to number 13, and this might be a bit of a surprise. I don't know. You can start telling me when you're surprised, because I like Steve Hadger. I really do. And there's a little bit more to him right now. And I did a pretty deep dive into a lot of his starts, watched a lot of the video. And Hadger missed some time in June with shoulder discomfort or shoulder fatigue or whatever you want to call it. And his velo has fluctuated massively this year. I watched one of his last couple starts. He was 89 to 91. I've watched other starts where he's hit 95, 96. So that's a big wrinkle in this. But this is a 22-year-old lefty who had success at Michigan on the big stage as well. 4 pitches that are at least going to be average, and that's really encouraging. But also some deception, some length, some just natural life and ride on his fastball as well. If his fastball is more 92, 94, I think we've got a pretty solid number 3, number 4 starter. And I don't think it's that outlandish to think that he could get healthy in the offseason and really have that velo up. What's interesting is he's still throwing right now, and the velo is down. So that's one thing to follow, but I really like the changeup. I really think the slider's got potential, and the curveball is not a bad 4th pitch either. So you have 2 above average pitches, a fastball that should be above average if he's right, and a curveball that he can mix in as a 4th offering. As long as the command continues to develop, got a pretty good 6'5" lefty here.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed about him when I first watched him, so he just turned 22. His birthday was his first start in the Reds organization. Struck out the first batter he faced on 3 pitches and walked the next 4. But what I like about him, and the Reds are targeting a lot of lefties. It just seems like that's just some players that they're going after. A lot of lefty starters. What I noticed about him right off the bat, Arm, and you know so much more about this than me, but he hides the ball extremely well into his windup and as he approaches the plate. That's just like the first thing I noticed, which is kind of how he hides the ball. And then when you're 6'5", you get that extra kind of extension towards the plate. I could see where the ball kind of sneaks up on you, and would lead to, a few extra swing and misses. I like the move that they did here, this particular trade, and I'm sure we'll talk about the other pieces as well. I just liked what they brought back. And the Tyler Mahle trade, they brought back a few different players that offer a few different things, all filling different roles. I thought it was a smart move, and I thought that this particular trade, and I'm glad to see that you're high on him because not as many people are, but still very young, and like you said, has been dealing with a a little bit of, let's just call it shoulder fatigue or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think they called it a left shoulder strain. That was in June, so June 15th. And again, that's a big impact on velo. And I think if this guy's sitting 93, 95, 92, 94, the rest of the stuff's going to play up. His changeup looks exactly the same out of his hand because you talk about the way he's able to hide it. That's something I love about Ken Waldichuk and some other prospects. He has some of that in him. Repeats the arm slot well. The arm speed is maintained. Like, I think that it's a 50 to 55 grade changeup based on the shape, but would play up based on his deception and based on his ability to repeat kind of the same mechanics and arm speed. And then you have that slider that's not far off either. If the velo is where it needs to be, this guy's going to be good. And he's touched 95, 96, reports of a 7. I don't have that in front of me, but even at 95, it's a lot different. So hopefully he can get right and continue to get more into the low 90s. But that's a big kind of factor in all of this. And I think he could be a big time riser if he does gain some of that velo.
Yeah, I would consider that the first surprise of the list.
Yeah. Here's Connor Phillips at 12. And I don't know if, there'll probably be some other surprises. So I'm interested to see. Once we get to
this is a surprise.
This is
in the opposite direction.
You thought he'd be higher?
A lot of fans would have had him higher than 12.
So tell me the Reds fan pulse, and then I can.
Okay. There's an asterisk next to this explanation. The asterisk is he was part of a trade of 2 fan favorites, right?
Yeah.
And he, for the longest time, was the only one producing until Jake Fraley, who we wrote about today at justbaseball.com. You can go read about how he's rake Fraley. Connor Phillips was kind of the guy everyone was clinging to, the player to be named. And he started off really well. And when you see the highlights on Twitter, you see that crazy breaking, just it's pitching ninja-esque stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then you look at the box score, you watch a game, and you're like, oh, man, he's kind of walking quite a few, and he's giving up some contact. And so I would love to see what you have to say about him. But he's ultra young, but already got called up to Double-A. Why are they seemingly fast-tracking Connor Phillips a little bit?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not totally sure. I don't know if it's, it could be anything from guys that they want him to work with, pitching coach-wise. Because, again, for Connor Phillips, really, the biggest challenge is Connor Phillips, right? It's not anyone he's going to face. Because if he's around the zone, it doesn't really matter who he's facing. He's going to be lights out. His last outing, he looked really good against a very, very solid Rocket City Trash Pandas lineup, which features, a lot of recently drafted high profile guys and a couple other guys that have been having good seasons. He went 5 innings of 6 hit, 1 walk, 9K baseball. But what holds Phillips back a bit for me is the fastball command, because it's one thing to have struggles with the breaking balls. And he does have struggles with the command of the breaking balls, but the fastball command is not great. And he's 96 to 98 at times, which is crazy. Ridiculous stuff. But I just have the concern of the fastball command, which, at times still gets hit pretty hard. 902 OPS against on the fastball this year. And remember, that's more against high A guys. So that's obviously an issue because he's walking guys with that pitch and then also missing middle. The slider's disgusting. It absolutely is disgusting, but it's a pair of breaking balls that he struggles to command. And he doesn't really use the changeup. So I just have a lot of concern when it comes to his ability to stick as a starter. I think he can. I think there's hope. But I just think there's a lot that needs to be sorted out for Connor Phillips for him to be kind of in the same conversation as some of these other guys. And I just haven't really seen him string together that many good starts in a row besides, the starts of the season. But you look at his entire career as a whole, it's kind of been the same of just a little bit of inconsistency. And that's kind of what holds him back for me.
Yeah. Before we move on to the top 11, I just wanted to squeeze in one question from Cole that you may see here about Mike Siani. If you don't mind to pull that up on the screen, we'll get that going. As we wait, everybody hit the like button. We have around 40 people in here right now, only 12 likes. That's the easiest way to just support us a little bit and get our name out there. Hit the like button. And so an interesting question about Mike Siani, who's a player that a lot of people have mixed reviews about. And I don't think I'm going to spoil anything to say he's not in your top 11, is he, Aram?
No, Mike Siani is not.
No. But he's coming up. He's been in the minors for a while. He was injured a lot last year and has looked decent this year. Can play center field, a position that the Reds just don't have anything at. I mean, right now, close to the majors, they just don't have much going on. Do you think that Mike Ciani has a place in the major soon?
Yeah.
And just because of his defense effect, or is his bat not good enough, is what the question says.
I mean, like, here's the thing is there's definitely not much impact whatsoever. His exit velos are well below average, but he makes a ton of contact. He doesn't swing and miss. Really just puts the ball in play, flies, swipes bags. Like, this is a perfect fourth outfielder. And if a guy's hurt and he has to fill in for 20 games, he's going to be more than fine. I think Siani is a big leaguer for sure. And I think he's going to sneak some balls out of there, in Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark. I was looking at a spray chart, and he would have had, I believe, something like 10, 11 home runs this year. Like, he would have had a few more homers had he been playing his games at Great American. Might have even been a dozen. So, I mean, there's definitely enough impact there, but bat to ball, great defender, freaking flies. What does he have? 43 bags this year. I think he'll probably almost always be a 90, 95 WRC plus guy, but if he plays great defense and flies, that's a great fourth outfielder.
Can he be one of my favorite players only from the left side, Miles Straw? Can he just become Miles Straw maybe?
I think he can. Like, less on the impact. Like, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Why couldn't he be Miles Straw?
I'd rather him be 2021 Miles Straw, not 2022 Miles Straw, who's been a complete disaster. But we're getting off subject here. So, yeah, let's jump back into this and head to number 11.
So, 11, this is where...
Okay, now this is a hot name on Twitter, Arm, and I know everyone's really excited to hear you talk about him.
So, this is where proximity
Everyone
matters.
falling in love, man, with this guy.
So, this is where proximity matters, again, because... I think long term, if you talk about upside, I think Connor Phillips has more upside, right? If it all works for Phillips, he's a number 3 starter with big time K stuff, right? So that's the hope. The reliever risk there and how far he is away, he hasn't really shown success in double. That's going to put Encarnacion ahead of him. And Encarnacion is really interesting. Encarnacion-Strand, I should say. Encarnacion-Strand is an extremely interesting prospect for me because I don't know if Reds fans saw this one, but this tweet specifically. Not only does he hit a lot of home runs, it's how far he hits them, right? I mean, 9 of his home runs have traveled at least 420 feet. And I had a lot of faceless profile tweets, like Twitter accounts replying to me like, doesn't matter how far you hit it. I'm aware of that. But what it kind of tells you about Encarnacion-Strand is that he is going to miss-hit baseballs that leave Great American Ballpark. Like, he will inside out swing baseballs that get over the wall in right field. This guy has 70 raw power. But what stands out the most to me is I was expecting way more swing and miss. This guy has 80% zone contact. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Go look at some of the biggest power hitters in baseball and see what their zone contact rate is, which is legitimately the percentage of time you make contact on pitches in the zone. It's going to be way lower than that, or at least a few ticks. The only thing is that he's an extremely aggressive hitter. His chase rates are pushing towards 40%, which is just way too high. But again, testament to the bat to ball skills and how hard he hits the baseball, he still has somehow been able to put up pretty high batting average numbers because of the ability to just hit the ball hard and frequently.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that are listening follow Bryce Spalding, who's been putting out a ton of fantastic minor league content for the Reds. And, I've caught a couple different times in the past week or two that Encarnacion-Strand was just poking a ball the other way. Like, it's not like Alan Cerda, who's swinging out of his shoes at times and kind of maybe lacks some control with just bat control. But Encarnacion-Strand, man, I like him a lot. There's going to be a natural opening, believe it or not, with Joey Votto leaving after next year, probably, most likely. Encarnacion-Strand, I love that they brought him back. He fits naturally in there. Of course, they don't have a DH either. So, pick your poison there. If it all works out, I think he can have a really successful career in Cincinnati.
So one concern, he can get a little bit long. And as a result, he has struggled against velo this year. I think pitches 93 miles an hour and above have given him some fits. A lot of broken bats. I think the scouting reports started to get out where they're like running in on his hands a little bit. I think it's something he can adjust to. And again, the contact rates are extremely encouraging. He crushes breaking balls. He crushes changeups. Really, velo is the only thing. So, I think if he can temper the approach down a little bit and really stop chasing as much, that would be something that is extremely encouraging. And everything else looks really damn good. Also, Cerda's a just miss guy. I should have mentioned him in there too. Really struggled in Double-A. Before we move on to the next guy, Cerda's really struggled in double, but he's young for the level, 22 years old, big time power. I think we were hoping that after he made those contact improvements in high A, I definitely was betting on that continuing, and he kind of took a step back in double. He made swing adjustments that I liked, but then just kind of left the approach, got to double and started pressing again and just abandoned the approach that was actually working for him. So I still like Cerda. He's still a top 20, 25 prospect without a doubt. But yeah, the way he's abandoned his approach has been pretty frustrating. But look at Alex Canario with the Cubs. I don't think Canario is that much more talented with the stick than Cerda is. And I think Cerda can have a similar type of kind of just clicking moment if he's able to hone in on the approach. Because, I saw Canario this year. He looked as lost as anybody I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would just like to see Alan Cerda just slow it down a little bit. Sometimes he's just swinging out of his shoes. Just kind of try to just simplify at times. Now, when he does make contact, you'll hear about it because it'll be all over Twitter.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing, man. When he hits contact, it sounds like. And this is not a comparison. I'm just comparing the sound off the bat. It reminded me of like when I would watch Jay Bruce when he was coming up, and just like the most perfect sound off the bat, but still a ton of swing and miss in that guy's game. And he walks at a decent clip, so we'll see. I'm not exactly counting on him entering in 2024 as somebody who's, and he's on the 40-man. I don't know if you know that, but he is on the 40-man roster. So that's where the interesting questions always come up is, do you just call him up and see what happens? Is this going to be another situation like Jose Sierra or Siri where he's on the 40-man because he has to be, but he's so far away that you just have to DFA him? Like Alan Cerda, a year from today, you could tell me he's in the major leagues hitting home runs, or you could tell me that he is just like really struggling, and I'd believe either one. I have no idea what to think.
Yeah, you got to stash him. I think you just got to deal with it, and I think they're okay right now in terms of not really having to add too many guys to the 40-man. But with some of the prospects that they've had coming in here, they could have an interesting pinch. This guy will not have to be added to the 40-man for any time soon. But I don't know. This might be a surprise. I don't know. Sal Stewart at number 10. I went into this kind of, without a majorly strong opinion on Sal Stewart. Really like what I saw. This is a guy that from Westminster Christian, which powerhouse in South Florida, a dude that came from the same high school as Alex Rodriguez, MJ Melendez, and several other, really, really talented players. But Stewart showed out, in high school against really good competition on the showcase circuit as well. But the swing, man, it really plays. I was really impressed at what this guy was bringing to the table with the swing. His moves are so simple. He's explosive. The amount of whip he generates with the barrel, his lower half is rotational power is really impressive. What I see here is a guy with really exciting raw power potential, but I think better bat to ball than you'd expect from a high school prospect of his profile. We'll see if he can stick at third. I think he can. The arm is good. He moves well enough, was a basketball player in high school as well. I liked this pick by the Reds, and I think this was one of the best all-around prep bats in the draft. To get him on top of Collier, who we'll get to, this was a great, great pick by them, and I'm a big fan of Sal Stewart's.
Did Sal Stewart break any of the RM Layton South Florida high school baseball records, or do you still hold all of those?
Oh yeah. I own one, which is the sacrifice record for my school at Pinecrest. That's what you get when you're in a lineup with much better hitters than you. So no, I don't think Sal Stewart sacrificed once in South Florida. He hit 500 actually with like 8 pumps, and he's really damn good. So I really like the swing, natural lifts, easy carry. This dude's gonna rake. I think this is not going to be one of those where it's a struggle and you're waiting. You got to be patient with a high schooler. I think it's going to be really interesting. The two Reds, not high schoolers, because Cam Collier's technically not a high schooler, but he's younger than most high schoolers. The two guys that they took out of this draft, the two teenagers, I think are going to be way more advanced than a lot of the other high school guys in the draft.
So I don't know a ton about Sal Stewart. Just drafted, haven't seen him play in the Reds, MILB.com teams streams. So my question to you is just simple. Let's talk about something years down the road here. Do you think he can stick at third? Or
so that was something I tried to watch as much as I could. I think he can. It really just depends on how he matures physically, because he's a big dude. He's 6'3", 215 pounds, but the arm is good. I thought the footwork was pretty good. He played basketball, and you could kind of tell like he has some lateral quickness. I think he can stick at third and be an average defender there. But again, it's really all about the bat. I like the bat. So if he's a corner masher, you got another really good piece here, and there's a ton of upside with somebody like Sal Stewart. Oh my God, did Albert just homer again?
Albert Almora Jr. homered. Those who are wondering why that's important, Jack McMullen of Just Baseball has gone on record many times to say that Albert Almora Jr. is his favorite baseball player ever. He loves him. He owns 3 jerseys, a Cubs jersey, a Reds jersey, and a Mets jersey of Albert Almora. Just a huge fan.
Kyle, thanks for joining. Always happy to do this. We'll do these more, and we'll definitely do a top 100 update, one of these as well. Here's another impossible man to peg.
There's so much back and forth with him, man.
Dude, this makes me sad, because this is, people talk about like what was one of the more, I guess where have you missed, or where have you been disappointed in a guy that you've been extremely bullish on?
Yeah.
Brandon Williamson. I was as high on Brandon Williamson as anybody this last year prior to the trade. So when the trade went down, I liked it. Everything's taken a step back this year for Williamson. But what was interesting is when I did the data dive, the velo is consistent. The velo is fine. His spin rates and his vertical break on the fastball. So his induced vertical break on the fastball, which essentially is just the riding life that it has, down 3 inches. His overall spin rates are down more than 100 RPMs across his entire arsenal. Like, that was kind of what we saw from some guys on the crackdown of sticky stuff. But that happened last year, and Williamson was doing what he did all last year. I can't really speak to what's happened, and I've talked to some guys that have faced Williamson and Abbott and other guys in the Red system, and just asked them, hey, normally I can make these, takeaways myself, but you're in there in the box right now. What does Williamson's stuff look like? And, the consensus was kind of just down. There's nothing really plus, which is crazy, because before, I think last year, you looked at potentially 4 above average pitches that all had a chance to be plus, and all were, in the top tier of swinging strike and in zone whiff and all of those things. That's not the case this year. And as a result, you're seeing a guy nibble and not have confidence. I know he's in AAA. I got to change that. You're seeing a guy nibble and not really have confidence. I call it zone confidence, right? Like, if you have good stuff, you'll throw it in the zone and say, try and hit it. He doesn't have that confidence right now, and he's kind of nibbling with all 4 offerings, and it's pretty frustrating and upsetting.
Yeah, and I went to a game when he was in AA, and he struck out Michael Harris, like one of the first batters of the game, and he looked confident, walked the next guy, and then the rest of the game was kind of nibbling around, wasn't attacking hitters. And I noticed that as well. The velo that day was down, but, I don't know what to think of Chattanooga's, radar gun reader from there. So I don't put too much stock into all that, but it was a little bit concerning. And I just kept been telling myself for the first 2 months, let's just wait it out. Let's just see how it goes, see what happens.
Yeah.
And I just haven't seen a ton of improvement. Do you think he's a guy who just gets a chance in 2023 still with, I mean, he'll be what, 24, 25 years old at that point. Kind of in AAA. Do you think they keep him in AAA? Do you think he gets called up at some point? Because they're going to have some arms in that rotation.
I almost want to see him like get up and get an opportunity with some big league pitching coaches and just see what's up. But yeah, I don't know if that makes the most sense. Like, do you want to expose him to what could be a very, very, very frustrating situation? Because here's the reality is still somehow he has put up decent surface level numbers, right? Like despite all of his stuff being down and 63 walks and 104 and 2/3 innings, he's got a 3.96 ERA. He's punched out 107 and 104 and 2/3 innings. So he's striking out more than a batter per inning. And the ERA is respectable. Everything else is not great. And again, it's because he's able to avoid hard contact and mix up his pitches just enough. But I'm hoping that he can kind of rediscover things. And that's why he's still at number 9 is this dude has 4 pitches that could be above average. All of them. I mean, the curveball was looking like a plus pitch last year. The slider was looking like a plus pitch last year. And I will say the slider is the best offering this year, still looks comfortably above average. Everything else, not so much. The fastball has taken one of the biggest steps back in terms of just shape and quality. But I think he could still put it together. Matt Manning's stuff looked gone. And all of a sudden now he's back and looks really solid. Maybe he has to reinvent himself a little bit. Maybe he eliminates a pitch and focuses on 3. Maybe he changes the fastball to more of a sinker. There's a lot of things that can happen here, but he's a 6'6" starter with a feel for 4 pitches that have all looked above average at times. And I think that's too much to just swear off. And it's not like he's completely lost this year. He's still somehow holding his own in the upper levels despite all of this. So I'm holding out hope. But if it looks the same by June next year, then we're probably starting to drop him down.
Yeah, I need to make a correction before we move on. I saw Albert homered, and my brainwashed Reds mind immediately assumed Albert Almora Jr. because my mind doesn't work right.
I thought he was trolling us. Pujols hit 693, right?
Pujols homered. Sorry, guys. I legit thought Albert Almora Jr. That's just how my mind works, which is disgusting. I've got to fix that. But let's just move on to number 8.
Agreed, Dawson. Throw us some likes. Maybe we'll get some more folks in here.
Yeah, you all just share this with people. I'm begging you. No, I'm just joking. But I'm interested to see this top 8 because there's a couple names. I just need to see how they shake out. Okay, so we got a pitcher here. Andrew Abbott. Okay.
So this was a tough one. Williamson now has been passed by Andrew Abbott. This is kind of corroborated by what I've seen, the quality of the stuff, the data, and then conversations I've had with hitters that have faced both of these guys in the same series. That they've all kind of said, I mean, I'd just prefer to face Brandon Williamson. Abbott, year younger. The stuff is playing. The fastball has been great. What's interesting is this was a polished command over stuff guy who now has really good stuff and is fighting some command issues. I have confidence that he's going to get back to throwing strikes and consistently kind of being that 3-pitch mix guy. But what really put him over the top for me was the quality of the fastball. And I know it's not the sexiest pitch in the world in terms of velocity. He's more in the low 90s, but a ton of ride and big time swing and miss numbers in the zone. And then also, that allows the curveball to work really well off of it, which that's a slurvy breaking ball. It is nasty. And the changeup has been playing up as well. So I really like the 3-pitch mix. I think the command will get there. And Andrew Abbott all of a sudden is more exciting than Brandon Williamson. What I will say too is 24% in-zone whiff rate on the fastball is spectacular. Yeah. A testament to, again, when you have that to fall back on, like, hey, it's a 2-0 count. I can throw you a fastball and still have confidence that you're going to swing through it. That is something that really helps a pitcher. The curveball, he has a ton of confidence in. Changeup continues to get better. I think that 3-pitch mix is going to play, and he's going to be a really solid number 4, maybe number 3 starter.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question. It's just how high is this upside coming into the season? I had not seen a ton of him, of course, some, but not a ton. And I was kind of like, okay, from what I saw, like, looks like a good pitcher. limited upside maybe. But from what I've seen this year, I've changed my own opinion that I think he has the upside if things, all go right, of being a number 3. Maybe not in this particular rotation, but that type of stuff.
Yep.
And note, everybody out there, ETA 2023 for Andrew Abbott coming up next year. Something exciting to watch for in 2023. 6 foot 180, a little bit shorter than a lot of the other lefties that we've talked about tonight. I like
it because it works for him. When you have that high induced vertical break and you release it from a lower arm slot, it just plays up. So that's why he gets so much swing and miss in the zone. On top of that, you have somebody like Abbott that's able to really be durable. That's something that he earns really high marks for. Is just he's been a bulldog his whole career. Really hasn't, knock on wood, hasn't really had much issue with maintaining velo and kind of staying fresh, and also earns high marks for his makeup and attitude on the mound. I think this guy could be a really solid innings eater as a lefty that gets plenty of swing and miss, and I think will be a good fit in that rotation for Cincinnati, and pretty high floor guy that can give you quality start after quality start. And I think the numbers are a bit inflated due to, I think a couple blow up starts, but he's settled in as of late. And I think he's going to continue to start, putting more consecutive, solid outings together. He's been a bit Jekyll and Hyde where he'll strike out the side and then really fight his command again too. But I think he's also kind of getting used to just having way better stuff than he's ever had. And as he gains more zone confidence, I believe he'll get there.
Number 7.
Here's a surprise, I think.
Oh. Is it a surprise?
Chase
Petty. I would say Chase Petty would not be a surprise to me. I think I'm higher on him than some people are. But go ahead and take it away.
Okay, I'm refreshing it.
Don't look. Nobody look.
So Petty, what kind of sold me on Petty being number 7 is kind of how much more safe he was than I really expected him to be. So this was somebody that high effort, 100-mile-an-hour fastball and a wipeout slider. And everyone was like, okay, he's small. It's high effort. Command is a question. This guy screams reliever risk. That was always the perception. Even when he was traded, that was my perception. Then I watched what he's done this year, and I realized that is not the case whatsoever. This is somebody that is actually pitching to ground balls, has a bowling ball of a fastball in the mid-90s that is a big time weak contact inducer. And as a result, he's really going deeper into games. He's been more consistent. He's not walking guys that much. And now he started to mix in a 4-seamer, which is beautiful. So now you have Bobby Miller does it. You got the 2-seamer that bails you out, weak contact inducer, especially to lefties. 4-seamer, top of the zone, will get you the swing and miss. It's not there yet. It's still a dead zone fastball. He's got to work on the shape. It's hard when you have a heavy sink fastball to then have an adjustment 4-seamer. Sandy Alcantara has been doing it now too, and that's a big reason why he's been successful. He'll get there. But the fact that he's already doing it, I love that because the slider's nasty. It's quite disgusting. And the changeup is further along than I thought it would be. Why would Chase Petty ever throw a freaking changeup in high school? Why would he ever do that? He never had to. I expected this thing to be just nascent and non-competitive. It's flashed above average. So you have a guy with a 4-pitch mix and already shown a feel for the changeup, already has basically 2+ pitches. I think the floor is way higher on Petty than people thought, and the ceiling's still there. Is if the 4-seamer develops and the changeup continues on its trajectory, it's a 4-pitch mix. One of the more athletic pitchers you're going to see on the mound. Ridiculous arm speed. I really like what Chase Petty is developing as and what he's been able to do.
Yeah, and I just want to be mindful of your time, and I agree with everything that you said on Chase Petty. So we can just go ahead and continue to chug along here to number 6.
I want to give Michael Parker some credit here because I kept telling Reds fans this, like you have an embarrassment of riches now. Like, this is good. You have direction. Where would this system have been without the trades? Not even close. And we're about to get into a lot of those guys.
And
this
do
is
keep in
where,
mind who has graduated since
yes,
the beginning of the year as well. I know a lot of people um, kind of forget that happens. Lodolo, Green, Ashcraft, even Jose Barrera on some list. I know not on just baseball's list, but whenever you're looking at these lists, just keep that in mind as well. That it's really and Nick Kirby brought this up, and somebody else did as well. And I know that I think Jace brought it up to you on Twitter. It's like we just need a 25 years old and younger list.
yeah,
And RM, like if you die, you die making it, man. Go out and just like dig through 3,000 players and see what you come up with.
Yeah, this was a lot of work in itself. I probably won't be looking at the Reds for a little bit after this one, but so this was tough. Where to peg Spencer Steer, and this is more of a testament to what is a very, very, very good farm system as to why he is 6. And I want to get into specifics of Spencer Steer because there is a timeline of tangible adjustments that all kind of corroborate what is the hypothesis of Spencer Steer has tapped into power that is believable and now is an above average regular potentially. Steer was very simple bat to ball guy at Oregon. 4 or 5 homers a year max, but sprayed the ball all over, gap to gap, just a good all around ball player. He gets drafted in the 3rd round because he flashed really good stuff on the Cape and hit 5 home runs on the Cape. And I think Minnesota said, hey, well, maybe there's some power to dream on here. And he can swing it with wood. 3rd round pick, high floor. That was kind of always just the perception with him. First pro year, kind of more the same. 800 OPS, didn't hit for a lot of power. A very simple swing, like quiet hand load, picks the foot up, puts it down, swings. He comes out in 2021 after the 2020 layoff. More athletic stance, bit of a leg kick, which, is a good way to get into your backside and tap into power, but also can really impact your ability to make contact. The leg kick and the more athletic stance definitely resulted in more power. He hit 24 home runs or 25, whatever it was. And the contact was not compromised. He still maintained, I think instead of 87% zone contact, it was like 85%, which is still above average. And then we see him continue to do it now in AA and then in AAA. So this was a guy that made some moves, made some adjustments to his swing to tap into more power, tapped into more power, and it didn't come at the expense of his contact. That is everything you want to see. So I'm sold on the power. While it's still above average at best, he hits so much that he taps into every ounce of it. I think you're going to see 20 homers here, at least. I think you're going to see 275 with a good on-base percentage and a really well-rounded player. This is a guy that can play all over. Shortstop if you really need it. Third base, second base is where he's probably best. And, I mean, you could even try him in the outfield if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Super utility, but should be playing every day. I think this is an above-average regular for a long time.
He is, in my mind, taking place of what I wanted Nick Senzel to become. I wanted Nick Senzel to become that super utility guy going into the future, plays all over, but plays every day. Well, we just upgraded that as Reds fans if you put Spencer Steer into that category. If he can learn to play the outfield to an extent and fill in at second, short when need be, and third, I love how he sprays the ball. I thought that, getting Spencer Steer was just an awesome move along with the other players that came over from that trade. He's the type of guy that's going to be a fan favorite. I can just tell. Like, just his approach is going to be so pleasing just to watch. And, it's more bat to ball than some other prospects in here that everyone's going to love him. It's going to be like a refresh in the lineup when you just see him putting the ball in play a lot, but still with power. If you had to bet $1,000 right now where he will play the most for the Reds, what That's position? Tough.
Third?
I know there's other names that are going to affect it that we have not gotten to. I don't want to spoil that.
Next year,
if you want to.
Who's playing third next year?
Third next year, Spencer Steer, in my opinion. I mean,
third's my answer.
Dude, Mike Moustakas. Gosh.
Yeah. Third is the answer.
Okay.
And in the bat profile is there. By the way, with my handy dandy spray chart machine here, how many home runs do you think Spencer Steer would have in if he played all of his games this year in Great American Ballpark?
27.
31.
Whew, man.
And again, I mean, it's going to be a little different in the big leagues. He's also not playing all of his games at Great American Ballpark. I think 20 to 25 home runs with 275, 360 kind of, slash line, 500, hopefully. That's what you can dream on here. That's obviously the 100th percentile outcome, but I also think he has a really good chance at reaching that. So he's an interesting balance of like floor ceiling, hits the ball hard now. His average exit velo went up about 3 miles per hour. So again, tapping into power while also not really compromising the contact. What was very hard for me, and we talked about this, was how do I rank Matt McLain versus Spencer Steer? And I've talked about how proximity matters, and that was the tough part. But I think when you look at what McLain has already done really in his first full pro season in double, which has been really solid. I think he could be a little bit better in just the consistency department, but still 112 WRC plus, 15 homers, 21 bags on 22 tries, walking a ton, playing shortstop pretty much every day. Now playing a little bit more at second base, if I'm not mistaken, but most of his starts have been at shortstop. There's just more to dream on with Matt McLain. He's more dynamic, right? This is somebody that's a plus runner. This is somebody that could actually stick it short if you needed him to. Could play center field. I think has more potential to impact the baseball, though I think Steer taps into every ounce of his power as well as anybody. And also it just turned 23 years old. So with this situation here, it was the combination of good numbers in double and athletic upside that kind of just put him ahead of Steer here because he balances the proximity and upside really, really well. I was really a big fan of the Matt McLain selection in 2021, and I think he's continued to show that it was a great pick.
Yeah, I love what he's brought.
Talk about fan favorite, by the way, too. He will be a fan favorite.
And Stephen Offenbaker of Locked On Reds did a sit-down interview with Matt McLain this week, and it was just so insightful, talking about how he was injured and how he's come back and how that's kind of been better. He's really shown, and I love the mentality of that kid. I think he's going to be great, and I think he's the guy who might. I see him as the second baseman. That's just how I see it. I know Jonathan India's there for now. My side is I see him as the second baseman. I would love if he could become the center fielder.
That's what I want.
That's what I want. I'm just predicting second base compared to predicting center field, but I'm hoping and dreaming and praying on center field.
And to answer Nick Kirby's question on the splits, I'm not overly concerned about it. The numbers are still really solid against righties, and if you're a lefty masher, but you really, really struggle against righties, like obviously that's concerning. He's got an 857 OPS against righties. There's always going to be guys that crush lefties, and that really bolsters, the overall numbers. But if he's competitive against righties, there's a lot of similarities to Brandon Drury, right? Or is he the other way around?
Brandon Drury absolutely crushed lefties and was mediocre against righties.
I think what you got from Brandon Drury this year is very similar to what you think you can get from Spencer Steer.
I've never thought of that, Aram, and you're really like blowing my mind right now, and I don't know how I feel about that because it feels awesome, like to hear that.
No, I legitimately, it was funny. I was watching that like Drury all year, and I'm like, this is what Steer can be. If you want an idea of what Steer could look like, I think it's what Brandon Drury gave you this year with the Reds, but literally to the T of the splits as well. So we'll go to a little bit more on McLain real quick. Dynamic speed makes him, more impactful. I think he could be a really good center fielder, really. And he's played center field in college at times. Like he's has some experience there. It's interesting that he continues to play shortstop. I think he's a good shortstop. But if you're figuring out where he's going to kind of slide in long-term, I think center field might make the most sense.
Do you think they're keeping him at shortstop because they want him to play there in 2023?
It's very possible.
The Cincinnati Reds.
It's possible.
I know Jose Barrero's up there right now. He's really struggling, and I'm not giving up on Jose Barrero either, but I mean, Matt McLain's knocking on the door, and I would not be surprised if it's Matt McLain and Spencer Steer on the left side of the infield in 2023, at least at some point, not opening day or anything. But
So here is Cam Collier and number 4. And we can circle back to that question from Chase.
Yeah.
Where that was way up there. That was early on. Was that before? There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go. So I actually really don't have that much concern about Cam Collier sticking at third. I think it's outrageous for evaluators. I don't know where that's coming from. Is that from like specific outlet? I don't know.
He's 17 years old.
Yeah. I'm not relegating a 17-year-old to first base. But beyond that too, like he is a hard worker who will grind his butt off at third base. I was talking just today to Pete Flaherty, who's the GM of the Katuitt Kettleers, with the Cape Cod League team that Cam Collier played at, who by the way, to be 17 years old in the Cape Cod League, you got to be extremely talented. And Pete Flaherty wanted him there because he knew he would fit right in, makeup wise and talent wise. He's a good fielder. I actually think he's better than people give him credit for. He's got a plus arm and his actions are pretty smooth. I think he'll continue to get better at the position. Talking about the bat, my goodness, is this kid advanced? We're already seeing the numbers. I don't like to put a lot of stock in the complex, but like the numbers that he's already putting up in the complex is absolutely crazy. He has such a natural feel to hit. His swing reminds me of MJ Melendez to a degree, but what's interesting is he makes incredible swing decisions. You could tell he just sees the ball out of the hand extremely well. He rarely chases. He's so advanced. He sprays the ball really well, and he doesn't stray from his approach. Watching at bat after at bat after at bat, even in the Cape League against really good competition, he never strayed from his approach. This is a dude that's going to, I think, is as high floor of a 17-year-old as you're going to find. I think you can dream on a plus hit tool and plus power. Like you could dream on the 60-60 combination here and sticking at third. This kid could be really, really special.
Yeah, I know that, when he was dropping in the draft, you all had your live draft on Just Baseball's YouTube, and I was watching it. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big college baseball guy, draft guy. I focus on far too many other things I'm not as crazy as RM is and tuned into all of it. And you all were talking about how he was falling, and you were trying to figure out why. When he landed with the Reds, I just remember being so excited, and you all talking about like, oh my God, dude, Clay's probably ecstatic right now. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm ecstatic. Like, I don't know how to really feel, but I love to hear that. So I know that the fan base is really excited about him. I've seen some video of him and it looks incredible, but at 17 years old, there's still just a lot of time. So yeah, I mean, I know he's a guy that everyone's going to be following closely.
Working on walking him down for an interview too. So keep your eyes out for that on the Call Up podcast. We're going to try to lock him down in the next week or so. Really, really good kid. High marks for the makeup, which, again, on top of all the tools, just kind of puts him over the top. And this is a guy that I think is going to make a pretty smooth transition for how young he is through the lower levels. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. Already hit a home run 450 feet, by the way, at the complex, which is stupid.
I want to just highlight a comment right now from Tanner Clifton, who I love Tanner. Great guy. No idea who he's talking about when he says Donovan Solano, but more athletic. But being a Marlins fan and a Reds fan, I know that you and I can both appreciate whatever the hell he's talking about.
He's talking about Steer, I think. I love Donovan Solano, so I'm here for any Donovan Solano comp.
His nickname, and I don't know if this is like something that just
Donnie Barrels?
Yeah, so how does he get that nickname when he has like a 4.3% barrel rate? Like,
oh, here's a big buzzword. Alex McGarry.
Oh my gosh, dude. Tell us a little bit about Alex McGarry, his spray chart, any information that you can give us about Alex McGarry. He is a guy who's, I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, he is playing well. Nick Quintana is another guy who a lot of people are asking about, a Rule 5 eligible this December. These are, or maybe next December.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm an Alex McGarry believer. I just He's one of the most pull happy hitters I've seen. Really, like he really goes pull side to get into the power. A lot of end zone whiff, high chase rates, pounds mistakes. So credit there. But it's all pull side. He swings a lot. He chases a lot. He whiffs a lot. Doesn't walk a lot. I'm not the biggest believer in Alex McGarry. Probably he was walking 6% of the time. You know, if you're going to be a swing and miss guy, you better walk, and he doesn't really walk.
Edwin Arroyo at number 3.
Edwin Arroyo is really good, and the fact that
stop right there. That's it. Next, Edwin Arroyo is really good.
The fact that the Mariners got this dude on top of Noelvi Marte is outrageous. I know we had a question earlier that was like, what do you think of, the return for Luis Castillo? Crazy. To get Arroyo on top of somebody like Noelvi Marte, who we're going to get to, is crazy. Arroyo is as safe of, again, and really what's interesting about this system is it's a bunch of safe teenagers too. I think Collier is a relatively safe teenager. I think Stewart's a relatively safe teenager. I think Arroyo is as safe as they freaking get. He is a plus defender. I think he'll be a gold glove defender, potentially. His instincts are incredible. His first step is incredible. His arm is ridiculous. His hands are smooth. He is going to be a very, very good shortstop. No problem sticking there. Now you look at the bat. And I think that was kind of the question when he was first drafted, like how much impact is there? What kind of hitter is he going to be? Exit velos are slightly below average, but he lifts the ball really well. He gets natural carry from both sides of the plate. Right-handed swing has a bit more power. Left-handed swing's a bit better with the contact. And even though the exit velos are slightly below average for, he's young, 12% home run to fly ball rate. That's a testament to how much carry he generates on the baseball. Very lower half driven swing. He's an above average runner, above average field to hit, potentially above average power, and an elite defender. What is there not to like here with Edwin Arroyo? And the numbers have kind of backed that up so far. He's aggressive, as are a lot of young hitters with a good field to hit. He'll tone that down. I think he'll figure it out.
I watched a few games of him right once he came over. They were on MILB.com, and every single ball he hit, he drove, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's gone!" Before you realize, oh yeah, it's the, he's in the Florida State League. Like,
it's a graveyard.
Yeah, it's not getting out, but swung out of his shoes a few times. But a fun player to watch. He's one of those players that I'm just gonna love coming through the system. According to your graphic here, you have him as a switch hitter and a switch thrower.
He is,
which is interesting.
He is.
So
he throws with both arms. I don't know what the purpose would ever be for that, but he does throw with both arms.
Who do you have at number 2 and number 1? I think we all know who number 1 is.
Yeah,
and I think we all know who number 2 is as well.
So to get your second and third ranked prospects in one trade. Amazing.
So, Aaron, before you dive in, just a little bit about that trade. JustBaseball.com came out with top 20 trade assets before the deadline. Number 1, Frankie Montas. I pushed back on that. Number 2, Luis Castillo. When you look at the trades that they both did, and I'm not saying anything bad here, but
no, I didn't agree with that one either.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Incredible how much better the Reds did than the Yankees. And the A's traded with the Yankees. Sorry. The A's got back good pitchers. They did. They're a little bit different profile type return than the Reds, but I was blown away by the return. Truly shocked. When I saw Arroyo, I actually thought it was, I believe his name is, there's another Arroyo in their system that's like kind of further down their top 20. That's who I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then I saw Edwin Arroyo, and I was like, there's literally no way that they did this trade.
And I think one interesting wrinkle in this, and this might be wrong, I really do like Noelvi Marte, and he's going to be very, very high on our top 100 update. But I don't see Noelvi Marte as a consensus top 20 guy as much as maybe the rest of the industry does. I think he's really good. I think it's incredible to get somebody like Noelvi Marte. But I think maybe the inclusion of Arroyo is more of a testament to Marte maybe not being that consensus top 20 guy and maybe more of that, 20 to 30 range. Or my issue with Marte is there's two questions. One is defense. Is he going to stick it short? I think he moves to third. That's okay. That's not a big deal. The other is, will he learn to use the whole field? Because this dude, I'll start with the negative and then to really just gush about him because I think he's extremely, extremely, extremely talented. The numbers have been pretty solid. And I think he is more polished in terms of bat to ball than I think a lot of people, give him credit for. But at the same time, this dude wants to go pull side with everything. I'm waiting on the day where he just shoots a ball the other way. And he's capable of doing it. But for whatever reason, he really likes to go to his pull side. And he's got plus raw power, easy plus raw power. And we've seen him hit home runs that are just majestic. He puts on shows in batting practice. He's got crazy, crazy bat speed. It's similar, small frame, ridiculous twitch, great bat speed, similar to Marco Luciano to a degree, but just not quite there. What drives me nuts is how much he goes out and around everything. It drives me crazy because he's so quick to the ball. He is such a good swing that I would just love to see him stay inside and drive it the other way. You're looking at a dude that's pulling the ball, 50% of the time this year? Maybe more. So 53% of the time this year. Like that, you can't have success that way. And the fact that he is having success that way right now is a testament to how talented he is offensively. His approach overall is pretty good. He doesn't chase egregiously. He really does make a good amount of contact. That's why I have a 55 future on the hit tool. If he just stopped pulling everything, I think he could be one of the more exciting offensive prospects. He already is up there, but that's really what's holding him back from being like elite when it comes to the offensive upside.
What do you think of the Manny Machado swing comparisons?
Manny Machado. I could see that.
Extremely. So I never really thought about it. I saw it kind of on Twitter some, and I thought, holy shit, this guy looks a lot like Manny Machado. Do not confuse that with me saying he will be Manny Machado. Let's get that out there.
The difference is
Manny Machado comparable. It really is.
There's a lot of that's the thing that when he stays through the baseball, dude, like his swing is gorgeous, but when he's trying to go out and around everything, it's just really frustrating because it cuts your swing off. You roll over on pitches that you probably could have drove up in the middle, and it just really hampers you against breaking balls. Marte has crushed fastballs this year, 919 OPS against fastballs. And he's been good at times against certain breaking balls, but it just seems like now you get a slider, he's kind of casting out, trying to go pull side. You have a 909 or 919 OPS against fastballs, 687 against sliders, and then 660 against curveballs. I'm splitting hairs here because this is a kid that could be a superstar, and this is what's holding him back. Manny Machado pulls the ball 40% of the time. The pull side power is there. It's fine. But he has so much bat speed that he could leave the ball to center, or leave the yard to center. He could leave the yard foul pole to foul pole if he really starts to focus on staying through the baseball. The fact that he has done what he has done already, though, this year, above average speed, he walks, he doesn't strike out a ton. It's really only that. Like, just stop rolling over so much. And I think he'll be in really good shape.
We'll move on to number one. Let you talk about everyone's favorite player, and then what we'll do is go through and answer some of these questions, and we'll get you out of here at a reasonable time, Arm.
Let's just start with this clip. The GOAT. Look at this man go. So we kind of, I remember when we were talking about the Reds system last year, and I did a dive on Elly Cruz, an extremely limited video, YouTube triples that I found like through a chain link fence. And I'm like, whoa. Who is this guy? And he wasn't really getting any love anywhere. And I was like, instantly, I'm going to follow this dude. And I was looking and I'm like, okay, so this guy could have 70 grade speed. He's put up exit velos. This was before last season, or like during last season. still of 110 miles an hour at the time. Why is no one talking about this guy? And it's just because he's extremely raw and had a lot of issues with his swing and just out of sync. And there was like just a lot of just rawness to his game. He has put it together this year, and he's still raw. I'll say that. But I mean, just like, look at these tools, man. I was laughing as I was putting this together. And by the way,
it's true too.
I don't know. So we're going to update the top 100 in the next week or so. I've been working on it every day. I don't know how many other guys are going to have 80 future raw power. Jordan Walker, maybe one or two others. I can promise you that there is not a soul on the top 100 list that will have 70 raw power and 70 speed. God forbid 80 future raw power. Elly de la Cruz is a unicorn. And I'll be fully honest. I have not really decided what the top 5 is going to look like in our top prospect list. And I'm really fighting myself to like, I wouldn't say fighting myself.
Don't give anything away now.
I'm really trying to figure out where the hell I'm going to put this guy. Could be anywhere from 20 to 2. Like, it's that crazy. And if people want, and also real quick before we lose Carrick Melvin, thank you so much for the kind note. And thanks for hanging out with us, Carrick. Great meeting you. And tune into the call up if you enjoy more prospect analysis. I really appreciate the kind words. The dude also has a plus arm. And he's a switch hitter, but there is some swing and miss concern, obviously. And, I don't know how he's going to look in triple or in the big leagues. And that's obviously a little bit of the risk. Like, he doesn't make great swing decisions. I can tell you that. He swings a lot. He chases 37% of the time, which is a lot. He swings 50% of the time, which is quite a bit. But the end zone whiff isn't bad, which is encouraging. He hits the ball as hard as freaking anybody. And he's hit a home run over 500 feet this year. And he's fast as shit, and he's 20. So it's really hard to peg him in terms of like how elite. He's elite. How elite? And it's balancing the risk reward here. Reward is best player in the game. Risk, I'm trying to compute how much risk there is here. And that's what I'm really struggling with.
A couple of questions for you. And, I don't need to add anything about Elly de la Cruz. It's all been said. Anyone who's following any type of baseball prospects knows everything there is to know, seen the highlights. 2 questions that continue to come up in Reds country about Elly de la Cruz. One is the ETA thing. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, in the offseason when you wrote this, top 100, you had Elly de la Cruz. There's a typo in the ETA. And it looked like he was coming up in 2023. And then I was like, oh, I think that was a typo. And you're like, oh my God, yeah, it was. And we changed it. And now he looks so damn good that the original typo was correct. So I want you to touch on not only when he comes up and not just, oh yeah, 2023. I want you to kind of walk us through the process of how that works. Opening day, what does he have to prove to be here? And the second thing, I disagree with this. A lot of people want to move him to center field. A lot of people think he could be the center field answer. I say don't move your top 20 in the game prospect off of a premium position just to fill in another premium position. Please help the people understand why you shouldn't be messing with Elly de la Cruz's defensive line or defensive positioning whatsoever. And he just either needs to stay at short, or if a move to third or whatever in the future, that's fine, whatever. But
yes,
correct me, like, why would he be moving to center field? Where are people getting that?
Yes, to Nick Kirby's question, absolutely will. I take a lot of pride in my Elly de la Cruz coverage. I feel like we were on him before anybody.
I was texting Arm about Elly de la Cruz, thinking I was the first person to text him about him, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I know. I saw like blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh my God, dude, this guy's a psychopath."
It was the chain link fence triple that changed my life. I
was up late, like searching Elly De La Cruz on Twitter, finding any content I could, and like, oh,
I
Arm, have you
I
seen this
almost
shitty
drove.
video? Like,
I almost drove to like the complex and like or wherever he was playing to go watch. But
yeah.
yes, I would love to go there. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Elly De La Cruz can defend, man. I mean, he really can. I think he can stick there. I was pretty floored at his actions and how smooth he is there. You're going to deal with some errors here and there. He's a little bit, long and at times can, bobble and be a little bit shaky. But like overall, I've been pretty floored at his defense and 17 errors in 70 games. Really not that bad compared to most of the young shortstops you see in the upper levels. Go look at Noelvi Marte's defense. He has an insane arm. He covers a ton of ground. He turns double plays well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. You have a Fernando Tatis level talent. I know whatever about the Royds, but you have that kind of talent at shortstop here with game-changing ability. Don't move him. You want this kid focusing on how to hone in on his approach, not how to get reads in center field. That is not what he needs to be doing. I think he can stick there, be good, and cover a lot of ground. And the bat is insane. To answer basically the question, I guess, of ETA, it's tough because there's a few factors now. One,
McLain,
he's not
Barrero. I mean, there's so many factors into this.
If Barrero magically starts hitting, but Elly De La Cruz is doing what he's doing, I think you kind of just figure it out with Barrero. You move Barrero somewhere else. It's not like he's like
center a little bit. So you want to
he's some magical defender either. Like, it's not like Barrero is some incredible defender. He's fine. I'm not holding my breath on him. I look at the timeline. It would either be late 2023 or early 2024. I just don't know if you want to rush this, right? Like this is This is a franchise altering talent. This is a guy that could change everything for you, that could legitimately be the most marketable player that the Reds have had in a long time. That could be everything that you have wanted as for a Cincinnati Reds franchise. It could be here in Elly De La Cruz. And there's still a lot that needs to be ironed out swing decision wise, approach wise, and all of that good stuff that will get exploited a bit more in AAA. It just will. Like you see way less 2-0 fastballs in AAA. You see way less, 1-0 fastballs. If you miss your one pitch in triple, you might not get it again. That's the difference. Double, you're going to get those predictable pitches, and Elly De La Cruz is crushing them. I think he needs a little bit more time. And now you get the pick reimbursement if your guy breaks, opening day camp and wins Rookie of the Year. So that could sway the Reds to wait till 2024. I think it really just depends on how he plays in triple and how he adjusts there. He could be such a good hitter in terms of just impact and hands and bat to ball and power that he can kind of circumvent what is a pretty poor approach. There's guys that can do that. But he definitely, that's the one thing that's still missing. Like he swings way too much.
So I have a very simple question and then a little bit more complex question. It's 10:30. I don't want to keep you here all night. This has been fantastic. The questions have been great. The answers have been great. Analysis has been phenomenal. Question. So I actually saw this on Orioles Twitter. They were talking about calling up Gunnar Henderson now because he would get enough at-bats to disqualify him next year for Rookie of the Year, which would in turn not allow him to win Rookie of the Year, and how that affects his contract situation. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I feel like that's something that's going to snowball. Once other teams start to have that mentality of let's call the guy up now, disqualify him for Rookie of the Year next year. I mean, it's a big brain thought.
Well, what's crazy though is the teams get compensation though. Like if you call a guy up and he's up there from the jump, you can get a first round pick or like an early pick. So yes, they qualify for more, opportunities in terms of money and things like that, but they also reward the teams for doing so. And I think if you call up Gunnar Henderson next year, he's one of the favorites to win Rookie of the Year. If you call up Elly De La Cruz opening day 2024, he's one of the favorites to win Rookie of the Year. So it's a really tough spot. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the like pick reimbursement thing when it comes to trying to incentivize teams to call their guys up. I get what they're trying to do, but it almost is counterintuitive at times. So it's a weird thing.
There's one question that we can talk on. If you want to touch on any of the the complex players, I don't know how much you have to say. Here I'll just answer from my perspective when it comes to complex. I look at the numbers. That's about it. I don't, there's other players to follow. A lot of those players are so young and so far away. Personally, what I do is I look at the numbers. I don't have access to watch the videos. I don't have access to advanced stats. So I personally wait. So I don't have a lot of comments about some of these players. I've heard their names and I've heard good things about them. I don't know if you have any comments about Carrick Melvin asked 10:20 p.m. about certain complex players. Carlos Jorge was one of them that I know we touched on a little bit during the last live stream. Do you have much to say about complex players?
Not a ton, honestly, on too many complex guys. It's so hard, man. It's so hard to really to get much information on those guys, and the teams really kind of keep it close to their vest. But there's a couple dudes that I know have been getting some attention. There's one specific Reds complex guy that I'm missing. Is it not the guy that you just meant? Shoot, what's his name?
Was the Yerlin Confident was a guy who?
Oh my god, I remember that guy.
I talked to you a little bit about it. He's been injured, just got sent back to the complex, I believe, kind of a rehab thing. I don't know, but there's a
Ricardo Cabrera.
Was that it?
Ricardo Cabrera is a guy that I've been hearing good things about, but like it's tough, man. It's just not a lot of info or access to really get that kind of information from there. But
foots on the ground. I mean,
there's a couple guys that have some interesting impact. Adrian Reyes. Has some interesting raw power, big swing and miss numbers, but the overall raw power in the Dominican Summer League is kind of interesting. But yeah, there's just so many guys that kind of emerge out of nowhere. It's really tough. There's one other dude, Jose Montero, who's an 18-year-old, 93-mile-an-hour fastball, has some good life to it, throw strikes. Like it's just their competition. They're playing against like guys that it's really tough to dive into the stats and things like that. So it's tough.
Right. What do you think about putting Ryan Miller, employee of Just Baseball, down in the Dominican for a summer to give reports and write-ups about the Dominican Summer League?
I would love that. I would absolutely.
I'll talk to Ryan, see if he's free. Going forward.
Just put him out.
We can pay for his housing, man. We can make it happen. No, I'm sure he'd do really well down there as well. One last question for you. I know that you're seeing this about the 2024 roster. That's not something we can get into tonight.
We can do like a quick around the infield, maybe. If you want to wrap
arms up for it, man.
What do you want to wrap up
go here?
I got one more in me.
Go, man. Go.
I got one more in me. What do we got?
Okay. The 2024 infield, what do you think it would be? Catcher Tyler Stevenson. I want him to stay at catcher. Do you feel that way? Some people want him to move to first. He wants to stay a catcher.
With all the influx of talent you guys have right now, absolutely not. Keep Stevenson.
Good. Catcher Tyler Stevenson. First base, Encarnacion-Strand. Somebody else.
Encarnacion-Strand or somebody else.
That's like the free agent position you could bring in. How about your boy Garrett Cooper?
Sure, take him. He'd be a great fit, honestly.
I know. That's why I kind of want him there. It wouldn't be like outrageously expensive, but he's always injured. Second base, I personally want to move India off second base. I'd put him in left field. I'd put him in DH. I'd put him somewhere else. He's not been good defensively at all.
I agree. I'd prefer India in left, McLain or somebody else at second base. But I kind of like McLain in center.
If he can do that, I would be so happy.
So I would say McLain in center. Oh, let me just take you through what I want. This is probably never going to happen, but my dream would be McLain in center. You have India in left, Steer at second, Noelvi Marte at third, Elly de la Cruz at short, Encarnacion-Strand or a free agent at first, Stevenson at catcher, right field.
Jake Fraley, platoon player.
Jake Fraley, platoon with who?
I actually had some really bad ideas probably in the 2024. I said like a player the caliber of like Randall Grinchek, like a veteran who can hit lefties, who can play all three outfield, like that type of player, like
That's a
not
fun
like
team.
Jordan Luplow. I don't care, like somebody who won't break the
Luplo.
bank. That's the type of player, right? That they typically get
It's a
for
fun
something
team.
like that.
I'm in
right?
on that. That's a fun team.
Man, who's the DH?
Aquino.
Ian Happ.
Ian Happ. I'm in. Anybody. Literally anybody.
Encarnacion-Strand. I think he
Encarnacion-Strand.
went to Cincinnati. Okay, last question before I get you out. This is a question
He
from
did go
me.
to Cincinnati.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay. Not college baseball guy. Last question from me. I'm going to put you on the spot. This is completely unfair, but I do not care. 10 years from now, you have to pick one. Which Cruz from the NL Central will have a better career 10 years from now? Elly De La Cruz, O'Neal Cruz.
Elly De La Cruz.
Oh, man, he's playing to the crowd, baby.
No, I swear to God. Like, I don't even think it's close.
O'Neal Cruz isn't looking good, is he?
O'Neal can't hit curveballs. He doesn't even have competitive swings against him. It's ugly. I'm going Elly De La Cruz.
Man, there's so many. I don't know if you know this, Arm. I like to try to set you up for certain sound bites that I can clip and bank for later. So
there you go. And then I get roasted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that one will age well. I'd be willing to die on that hill.
Okay.
But absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. You can read the full prospect write-up at justbaseball.com. You can also keep up with, we're going to talk more about the top prospect list on our prospect podcast, The Call Up. Subscribe to that on all platforms. The art's in the top right if you want to see what it looks like. The Call Up podcast. Please check that out and help us grow it. Clay, any final thoughts from you?
No, I did not expect you to go an hour and a half, man. But we appreciate a Reds country out there. You all should just appreciate, Aram, no attachment to this team, really going an hour and a half on a Monday night. It's just incredible, man. And we appreciate you so much.
It's really fun to have so many people engaged, and really makes me want to do it even more. So Reds fan base has been great to Just Baseball since we've gotten started. I really appreciate all of it. And, we're going to continue to put out the best coverage we can for everybody.
Go buy the shirts.
Oh yeah. Check out new shirts on the site. It's Just Baseball.
Dry fit. They're beautiful. I'm going to buy 2 or 3 more. They're awesome.
Yeah. I just had to pay off the credit card for all the bills of buying those shirts. So help me break even, please. But thank you everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday night.